The EU's effort to backdoor end-to-end encryption has been defeated for now. The US has banned Kaspersky, Proton is becoming a non-profit, Mozilla is arguably becoming an ad company, and more. Welcome to Surveillance Report 183, where we are dedicated to keeping you private and secure with the latest news from the past week. I am Nathan from The New Oil.
And I'm Henry from Techlore.
Before we jump into the promo segment, as you guys can probably see, Henry is a still picture this week.
Or a bad video, whatever you decide to use.
Or potentially a bad video. Henry is currently traveling, so please bear with us. We decided to prioritize audio over video, so if the video quality is not up to par, sorry, but hopefully things will be a little bit better next week. In the meantime, we do have our usual ways to support us. We have Patreon, we have LibrePay for those who want something recurring but don't like Patreon, and we have Monero for those who want the most privacy and security possible. But we do have a big announcement. We have hinted at this multiple times, but we are now officially accepting sponsors. So this is kind of a call to anyone out there who may be watching who's like, oh, I work with a company or for a company or own a company. If you are a brand who's interested in working with us, we are looking for people to help support Surveillance Report. We just want to reassure all of our listeners that we are still going to maintain our original vision. We're not just going to say yes to anybody. We're going to look at things like the privacy policy. We're going to do our research. We're going to, interview these people, ask them questions. We're going to make sure that any sponsor we bring to you guys is someone that we feel comfortable recommending. This is not a guarantee that there's going to be sponsors as early as next week. We don't know. Who knows? Thank you guys for bearing with us while we ironed out the criteria for that.
We'll leave that linked in the description. We have a web page for it. We really don't actually know when we're going to get our first sponsor because we get sponsorship offers like weekly or almost daily sometimes, but we've just turned them all down. So it's kind of a question of like when we find the right person. So you'll probably still be hearing a lot of promo segments until we find a good click.
So with all that out of the way, let's launch into our highlight story. Some of you guys may have heard about this one. So there was this big initiative in the EU going around. The street name was Chat Control, and it was basically a backdoor for end-to-end encryption. It was client-side scanning, just like Apple talked about doing a few years ago, and the EU has now delayed that decision. Quoting the article here, for the measure to pass, it would have needed the backing of at least 15 of the member states representing at least 65% of the bloc's entire population, that being the EU. However, countries including Germany, Austria, Poland, the Netherlands, and the Czech Republic were expected to abstain from the vote or oppose the plan due to cybersecurity and privacy concerns. If EU members come to an agreement on a joint position, they'll have to hash out a final version of the law with the European Commission and the European Parliament. The legislation was first proposed in 2022. However, the draft proposal included an exemption for accounts used by the state for national and security purposes. Always got to love those loopholes. Sorry, I had to point that out. Belgium's presidency of the council is set to end on June 30th, so it is unclear if the incoming leadership will continue to prioritize the proposal. Just to address what the headline said, this was all under the guise of scanning for CSAM and serious crime, and, y'all know how the slippery slope goes at this point. I forget where I saw it, but somebody said, this is one of those moments when we should celebrate, but remember that the fight is not over. It's nice to see that there is so much pushback that they're actually pausing. This is a good reminder to go ahead and voice your concerns, call your politicians, preferably call them. That's the most effective one. Write them, I guess, email them or tweet them if you can't do anything else, and just remind them that, people vote, and if they do things people don't like, people won't vote for them. Seems to be effective.
Yeah, I don't have too much more. I mean, it's definitely a big win, but definitely a temporary win for maybe the battle, but not the war. And seems like every 2 years, every major jurisdiction all around the world tries to do the same thing. I think that this is going to be happening worldwide repeatedly until finally, I think people get what they want, and then we're going to start having pretty much, it's going to be the norm to backdoor encryption, or they're eventually going to have to give up and realize, okay, this is something that, the world's just not going to budge on really anywhere. So I think it's dangerous if it fails in any major country, and so we need to really be vigilant about this kind of stuff.
Something you said reminded me of this, but if anybody wants to read a good article, I'll go ahead and find it and leave it in the show notes. Bruce Schneier wrote an article. Basically, he compared it to overfishing. Basically, his argument was it became the norm. The population of fish were diminishing, and everybody who covered this story was starting from their generation of we have 1,000, obviously these are wrong numbers, but we have 1,000 fish. Now we have 800. Now we have 500. And they're starting with that as their baseline to do research. And he compared it to privacy of how like kids these days, yelling at the clouds over here as the old man that I am, they don't remember the days when the internet was open and like you never knew who you were talking to, in the sense that it could be a scientist from MIT or it could be a Star Trek fan who's still in high school. Like they don't remember that day before advertising ruled the internet. They don't remember when you could go online and be anonymous and, you could have privacy. Like it's the same thing. Like every new generation that's born into the current status quo, that's just the norm. And they never think about, until someone wakes them up to it, they never think about how much better it could be because they never knew that world. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to fight for privacy and security, is because once that new generation is brought up in the lower standard, it's going to be that much harder for them to claw it back because they've just never known it. So anyways, that's slightly off topic, but something you said made me think about that, and I wanted to share that.
With that said, we're going to dive into the data breaches, and we're going to start with a phishing attack, which hits LA County Public Health Agency, jeopardizing 200,000 plus residents' personal information. This was exposed after a hacker used a phishing email to steal the login credentials of 53 public health employees. The details that were possibly accessed in this data breach include first and last names, date of births, diagnosis, prescription information, medical record numbers, health insurance information, socials, and other financial information of Department of Public Health clients, employees, and other individuals.
Quick update on that one that just came in today. I'll cut this if I'm wrong, but I think this was the Snowflake data breach. This was related to that somehow. I haven't had time to read the article, but it did come in through my newsfeed today, so I'll add that to the show notes if I'm correct about that. Future Nate here with a quick update. I was wrong. The story that I was thinking of was actually an update from Surveillance Report 181. The Los Angeles Unified School District has confirmed that student data was stolen in a Snowflake account hack. This included student names, addresses, family names, demographics, financials, grades, performance scoring, disability information, discipline details, and parent information. The article didn't state exactly how many students were affected, but they claim to have over 26 million records of current and former students, teachers, and staff. So apologies for remembering wrong, but that's the actual story. AMD investigates breach after data for sale on Hacking Forum. The threat actor, which is Intel broker, shared screenshots of some of the supposedly stolen AMD credentials, but has yet to disclose how much they are selling it for and how it was obtained. Compromised data includes future AMD products, spec sheets, employee databases, customer databases, property files, ROMs, source code, firmware, and finances, and allegedly includes an employee database that contains user IDs, first and last names, job functions, business phone numbers, email addresses, and employment status.
Solaris, SEEMI, which is formerly a company called Contis, has a data breach investigation going on. So they're pretty much notifying cardholders of this investigation of a data breach in which personal contact information may have been accessed. The company's business is a credit institution which provides banking as a service. That means providing digital banking and other financial services, as well as custody and trading of cryptocurrencies.
Cybercriminal claims to have 30 million customer records from Australia ticket seller giant TEG. So this includes full name, gender, date of birth, username, hashed passwords, and email addresses. So the parent company Ticketek basically said that we're fine, our other subsidiaries are fine, but this was like a cloud-based platform, data breach, third-party vendor, blah, blah, blah. So the article says, while Ticketek did not name the, quote, cloud-based platform hosted by a reputable global third-party supplier, unquote, there is evidence that suggests it could be Snowflake, which has been at the center of a recent series of data thefts affecting several customers, including Ticketmaster, Santander Bank, and others.
Change Healthcare lists the medical data stolen in ransomware attack, and this is from United Health, who confirmed for the first time what types of data were stolen in this massive Change Healthcare ransomware attack, which we've already covered on the podcast. So those who've been on the podcast have already heard about this. But this included primary, secondary, and other health plan policies, insurance companies, member group ID numbers, and Medicaid, Medicare government ID numbers. Pretty much, it also includes health information as well, like providers, diagnosis, medicines, test results, and a lot of other things regarding treatment, billing, claims and payment information, pretty much all other personal information like social security numbers, driver's licenses, state IDs, passport numbers. So it really seems like nothing was off the table here. Change Healthcare says that the exposed data may be different for each impacted individual and that patients' complete medical histories have not been seen in the stolen data. Very hard to tell exactly what was leaked. It sounds like everything was leaked, but then they're saying it's not the complete medical histories, so maybe it's everything but complete medical histories that make it super easy for someone to find, but it doesn't seem like a good data breach.
And our last one is another update from Advanced Auto Parts, who has confirmed that data breach exposed employee information. That's really it, to be honest. We covered this back in Surveillance Report 181. This is just an official confirmation from the company.
And now company news. Amazon-powered AI cameras have been used to detect emotions of unwitting UK train passengers. Thousands of people catching trains in the UK likely had their faces scanned by Amazon software as part of a widespread AI trial. This is based on some new documents. So, the image recognition system was used to predict travelers' age, gender, and potential emotions, with the suggestion that the data could be used in advertising systems in the future. And during the past 2 years, this took place in 8 different train stations, including large stations like Euston and Waterloo. Manchester, Piccadilly, and other smaller stations have also tested AI surveillance technology with CCTV cameras with the aim of alerting staff to safety incidents and potentially reducing certain types of crime. The images were captured when people crossed a virtual tripwire near ticket barriers and were sent to be analyzed by Amazon's recognition system, which allows face and object analysis. AI researchers have frequently warned that using the tech to detect emotions is unreliable, and some say it can be banned, or it should be banned, due to the difficulty of working out how someone may be feeling from audio or video. In October of 2022, the UK's data regulator, the Information Commissioner's Office, issued a public statement warning against the use of emotion analysis, saying that the technologies are immature and they may not work yet or indeed ever.
And our second company story, kind of a short company week. This one says, Google Nest wants your friends' faces. Should you give in? I'm sharing it because I learned something new here, but I'm also sharing it because I think it's a really interesting conversation starter, which is exactly what this story aims to be. Towards the beginning, it says security companies like Google Nest and SimpliSafe are using face scan technology that allows users to create a face contact list for friends and family, using pictures that you already have. That data then gets used in video doorbells and home cameras. But instead of making face identification decisions for yourself, you're making them for other people, possibly without their consent. That's a new can of worms, and it deserves a closer look to anyone investing in home security devices. I saw this one pop up, and like I said, I didn't know that was a feature. And I really like this, that this article is like, hey, we should talk about this. And I thought that was cool. So that's the main reason I wanted to share this.
Okay, and then now we had no research this week, and so we're going to jump straight into politics. And we're going to start with FedEx, not the Federal Express, but they are the Federal Express. And they essentially have a secretive police force helping cops build an AI car surveillance network. This is from Forbes, and they learned the shipping and business services company is using AI tools made by Flock Safety to monitor its distribution and cargo facilities across the US. And as part of this deal, FedEx is actually providing its video surveillance feeds to law enforcement, which is an arrangement that Flock has with at least 5 multi-billion-dollar private companies. But publicly available documents reveal that some local police departments are also sharing their Flock feeds with FedEx. Flock already has a pretty extensive surveillance network that can pick up things like license plates, make, model, color, and other identifying characteristics like dents and bumper stickers and whatnot. Now, in regards to why FedEx is involved, they actually declined to answer questions about the nature of its partnership with Flock, and it's unclear just how widely law enforcement is sharing Flock data with FedEx. And according to a publicly available list of data sharing partners, 2 police departments have granted the FedEx Air Carrier Police Department access to their Flock cameras. And if you want to know who those are, that's the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee and the Pittsboro Police Department in Indiana. FedEx is also sharing its Flock camera feeds with other police departments, including the Greenwood Police Department in Indiana. These actually have been confirmed. So Morris at Shelby County did confirm that their department had access to FedEx's Flock feeds too. And Memphis Police Department said it received surveillance camera feeds from FedEx through its Connect Memphis system, but declined to confirm if those systems were powered by Flock. In addition, Kaiser Permanente, which is the largest health insurance company in America, has shared Flock data with the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, which is an intelligence hub that provides support to local and federal police investigating major crimes across California's West Coast. Perhaps one of the more surprising additions to Flock's list of private customers is Ulta Beauty. the beauty company.
Our next story is still kind of developing. It says the US bans the sale of Kaspersky software, citing security risks from Russia. The Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security said it imposed the, quote, first of its kind ban, arguing that Kaspersky threatens US national security and users' privacy because the company is based in Russia. Russia has shown it has the capacity, and even more than that, the intent to exploit Russian companies like Kaspersky to collect and weaponize the personal information of Americans, and that's why we are compelled to take the action that we are taking today, and that was the Commerce Secretary. Kaspersky will be banned from selling its software to American consumers and businesses starting on July 20th, but the company will be able to provide software and security updates to existing customers until September 29th. After that, Kaspersky will no longer be permitted to push software updates to U.S. customers. The secretary also said that U.S. customers who already use Kaspersky are not violating the law.
And this next one's a little unfortunate because I use this service and I have no issue saying that. And I know a lot of people in the privacy world really like them. MySudo, which is normally used for VoIP, but they also do email aliasing and also I think some card aliasing as well. They're, for the record, one of the only services we've seen that seems to allow VoIP services in, I think, the UK. But unfortunately, they're going to be requiring KYC coming soon. There's an email from MySudo, this is from the Techlore forum, from a user, I assume from the UK, that informs them that due to new UK regulations, UK numbers are now KYC'd, and users must provide first and last name, address, date of births, email addresses, and non-MySudo numbers, as well as government IDs.
Free and open source news. And we have a really, really big story this week. Proton is transitioning to a non-profit structure. Proton says most companies are created to be sold, and they achieve that by placing profit above all other considerations. For most businesses providing services to the masses, the easiest way to profit has been to misuse user data and engage in surveillance capitalism to the detriment of society and democracy. At Proton, we have intentionally taken a different path to achieve a more difficult mission. We want to ensure that Proton continues to faithfully serve the community for the next 10 years and beyond. To achieve this goal, I, which is Andy Yen, wrote this blog post, as Proton's founder, joined together by Jason Stockman, Proton's co-founder, and I apologize if I screw this name up, Dingchao Liu, Proton's first employee, have jointly endowed the nonprofit Proton Foundation through a donation of Proton shares. These transfers and commitments from the foundation founders make the Proton Foundation the primary shareholder of Proton and make irrevocable our wish that Proton remains in perpetuity an organization that places people ahead of profits. Foundations and their board of trustees are legally obligated to act in accordance with the purpose for which they were established, which, in this case, is to defend Proton's original mission. As the largest voting shareholder of Proton, no change of control can occur without the consent of the foundation, allowing it to block hostile takeovers, thereby ensuring permanent adherence to the mission. While comparisons may be drawn to things like Signal or Mozilla, the Proton Foundation seeks to tread a different path. We believe that if we want to bring about large-scale change, Proton cannot be billionaire subsidized like Signal, Google subsidized like Mozilla, government subsidized like Tor, donation subsidized like Wikipedia, or even speculation subsidized like the plethora of crypto foundations. Instead, Proton must have a profitable and healthy business at its core. For this reason, our services will continue to be offered through the for-profit Swiss corporation Proton AG, which now operates under the supervision of the nonprofit foundation, which is its primary shareholder. And then just to wrap up the Proton stories real quick, Proton Drive's photo backup now comes to iOS. So anyone with an iPhone can now enjoy Proton Drive's secure and private photo backup capabilities. This feature is gradually rolling out to the community and will be available to everyone by the end of the week, so hopefully by the time you're hearing this. How to use it on your phone, your iPhone: download the app, enable automatic camera uploads, and allow access to your photos. That's it. Your photos will start syncing to your secure cloud storage immediately.
Mozilla is introducing something called Anonym, which is raising the bar for privacy-respecting digital advertising. Also, my video might be a little laggy. That's a consequence of something, so I apologize for people who are having to watch this right now. But this is a trailblazer in privacy-preserving digital advertising is what they're calling it. So by securely combining encrypted data sets from platforms and advertisers, Anonym enables scalable, privacy-safe measurement and optimization of advertiser campaigns, thereby leading a shift towards a more sustainable advertising ecosystem. And here's how it works. Data sets are matched in a highly secure environment, ensuring advertisers, publishers, and Anonym don't access any user-level data. There's anonymized analytics, and the process results in anonymized insights and models, helping advertisers measure and improve campaign performance while safeguarding consumer privacy. And then differential privacy algorithms are also included to add noise to the data, protecting it from being traced back to individual users.
And this last one is just a quick update. Tuda Mail's website ranking has been mysteriously restored after Google's silence on downranking. We covered this on a past episode. I apologize I didn't dig up which one, but for 2 months, the Tuda Mail website was hidden from Google search results, and this significantly impacted their visibility. There was a whole thing. If you looked up encrypted mail, private email, things like that, Tuda's website didn't pop up. Their app did, reviews of them did, but they didn't for some reason. So in April, they went public with the issue after repeated attempts to get in touch with Google, submitted a complaint based on the DMA to EU regulators, and then miraculously on May 9th, the website ranking was restored. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's really no need to go in further than that.
All right, and really quick, NT Photos has released version 0.9, which includes quite a few new features. Like the most notable ones were now there's a video editor, no, not DaVinci Resolve, like a basic little video editor to crop things and trim and rotate your videos. You can now secure your account with security keys. They have album links with end-to-end encryption, home screen widgets on Android, and a few other changes that you can find in the sources.
And finally, that'll take us into the Misfits, where we have just one story: 2 men guilty of breaching law enforcement portal in blackmail scheme. So the Department of Justice says that the 2 men used a police officer's stolen account credentials to access a restricted federal law enforcement database containing sensitive records about suspects, enforcement actions, and intelligence reports. One of them used that account to request more information from social media companies, claiming emergencies and criminal investigations to obtain personal user information. Next, the 2 doxed and delivered threats to targeted people, threatening to release personal information like social security numbers, addresses, and email addresses on a publicly accessible website unless their demands were met. And it goes on and on from there. There's plenty of details. So that was all we had this week. The EU attempting to backdoor end-to-end encryption has been defeated for now. We'll keep you updated. Hopefully that won't come back, but if it does, we will let you know. The US has banned Kaspersky, Proton has become a non-profit, and Mozilla is arguably becoming an ad company. Lots of big stories this week, and really with all of them, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens and wait to see what the consequences of these decisions are, so make sure you stay subscribed. Once again, we are looking for sponsors, so if you represent a company and you think that your brand would be a good alignment with our values, please hit us up. If you don't represent a brand and you still want to support us at a community level, we really do value our community, guys. I promise we are not going to put you guys on the back burner or like stop prioritizing you. You guys got us here, and I'm sure Henry feels the same way, but I don't take that lightly. As a musician, I know the value of fans. I know that you guys are the ones who get us where we are. So trust me, nothing's changing. We're still hugely appreciative of you guys and your support and everything that you guys do to keep us going.
Just to add on to that too, like keep in mind the reason why we're even saying we don't know if we're going to have a sponsor for a while is because we're already in a pretty good place with all of you. So because of your support, we're still going to need it because that allows us to be picky with sponsors and not be dependent on sponsors, which we don't want either. So our goal is to be really diversified here so we can kind of spread out.
Yeah, we're seeking sponsors to like get to that next level. But we, like Henry said, we don't want to be dependent on them. We want to be able to walk away from any bad sponsorship at any time. So yeah, that said, thank you guys for listening to Surveillance Report. Links to all the stories can be found in the show notes. If you have a story that you think we should cover, please send it to news@surveillancereport.tech. And of course, the last thing we want to ask is please share the podcast around. The likes, the subscribing, the commenting, like we do appreciate that. And we would like you to do that because it does help with the algorithm. But really the best way to help us spread the word is just to share it around. So if you know anybody who you think might be interested in a story, we also have the Surveillance Clips channel. Be sure to go ahead and send that to them. And again, maybe we can reach some more people with the message of privacy. So thank you guys for helping with that. Thank you guys again for listening. And we'll be back next week with a fresh round of updates for you.